back after the 2-week break. Happy New Year. Hope everyone had a good holiday. This week, we are going to dive into the foolishness that happened at the return, the 1 month anniversary. But before I get into that, let me share some housekeeping with you guys. On Patreon, the ultimatum recap is on there with Jen. And I don't know if a lot of you watched, but even if you didn't watch, we will catch you up and you can catch that on Patreon. And just a reminder that there is no new after party episode because there was no after party this week. They had the journey so far on there. But after party will be back when it returns back on Patreon. And also to let you guys know, there's a community page on Patreon where we talk about the shows that we're watching, we want to watch, and you guys can let me know what you want me to talk about, any show, and it's a fun time over there. And that's on the Patreon, patreon.com/altarcall MAFS. Okay, now back to MAFS. This week, I'm excited for my guest. My guest has been here before, and she is a friend of the pod, and it is Nicole from the Nashville season. Hi, Nicole.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to have you back for
Thank you
this
for
episode.
having me. I love to be here.
Yes, I have many questions. It's a 1 month anniversary, so I'm going to pick your brain.
Please do. You know I have thoughts.
On everything that's going on. But before we get into the episode proper, some past MAFS activities going on. Your friend Jasmine from your season got engaged.
She
Yay.
did. Oh, I'm so happy for her. Her fiance is just lovely and treats her how she deserves to be treated. So we're so happy for her. And I won't say when her wedding is, but I'm very excited to attend it. So more to come on that.
That means you got an invite. Yay.
Not yet, but it's in the mail. It's in the mail. It's coming. Don't you worry.
So I have a question. Is this the incognito boyfriend that we saw on the show?
Yes. I don't know that she wants me to share that, but it is. It is.
It
is. She's showing his face now. Well, because, he's going to be her husband. I think it's okay to say they have been together for a very long time at this point. So, yes,
awesome.
That is
good for her.
Friend boy, as she called him.
That friend boy, friend husband now. Yeah. But I love when people that go through it on the show find their happily ever after. So it's really nice to see on that.
Yeah.
Speaking of weddings, Johnny from the Houston season got married. I know the last time I mentioned that they were on their way to the wedding, but he finally got married.
Saw
Gil.
that, yes. Oh, Gil. Let's talk about. I know you don't like him as much as I do, but you're in the minority there.
We are in the minority. Like back then, V&A just really got on Gil, and I'm still not sold. Like I keep waiting for it to turn, but everything
he's in the Navy now. He's trying to be in the Navy, something with the Navy. So he's really stepping it up.
Yeah, I saw that. He didn't ask me anything, and I was just on there listening to his answers. He's in the active duty with the Navy. He encouraged people to do it. Like he's 39, and he said he's still a firefighter, but he can't do that, forever. And someone asked him a question about MAFS, and he says he usually skips everything about MAFS. They asked him what his biggest lesson was, and he was like, it's better to let things go than to contort yourself and be someone different. And the thing that stood out to me is that there are more MAFS people who like to forget what happened. And I get it. If they don't have a happy ending, that's how they usually feel. But you had Stasha on your podcast recently, and I do wish more people are like her. Like even when she was an after party, her attitude towards it, she took accountability. Like, this is what I learned from it. This is what happened then. And I don't know. I guess if it's so traumatic, I understand them wanting to forget about it. But it's kind of sad that a whole experience in their life, it's like something like, I don't ever want to talk about it or be with it. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think Stasha is a rare case because from what I gathered from her, she had a really positive experience, even though it did end up in divorce. So for her, and even for me, I had a great experience. So I have nothing negative to say about it. But I would imagine if I had a horrible experience, not only do I not want to relive it, I don't want to relive it with people who have their own opinions based on what they saw on a TV show. So I could imagine him kind of or anyone just blocking it out mentally. But
Yeah.
I do hope that people who are on this show are taking learning lessons away from it, because you don't have to stay married to have personal growth and learn things about yourself and how
Yeah.
you are in a relationship. So maybe they can forget their relationship, but I hope he and anyone else is taking positive things away at least.
Yeah. That's true. And I want to clarify. I do think there are some exceptions, and I know it's not for me to judge because I wasn't in their shoes, but I think for him maybe I felt like it wasn't so bad, but he may have a different experience. But there's some people like let's say Paige, I'm like, yeah, forget it and just
Yeah.
act like it never happened. There are certain people that I think yes, forget it. So, let me give grace for that. But anyways, on to happier things. What have you been up to? How long have you been married now? Like, what's going on?
So this month we'll hit 2.5 years officially.
Nice,
So
nice.
that's great. I don't know if I said this last time or not, but we bought a house. So
Yes.
we've been in this house a little over a year. We still have our 3 dogs. Nothing really exciting, honestly, but I say that in the happiest, most positive way because I like calm. We're peaceful. We're
Yeah.
happy. We're both really busy with work. I have a podcast with Gina and Kirsten for my season. So that's been taking up a lot of my extra time. We're just happy. I mean, it feels like we're just a regular couple. And having our season recently come out on Netflix has been kind of a kick in the face because we were, was slowly going back into unrecognizable. And now I'm like, oh gosh, here it goes again. But it's been good. Everything's good.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned about marriage or through your marriage? What's the biggest lesson that you think you've taken or what you've learned about yourself?
I've learned that I need to make sure I'm in a good place before having a conversation that could get heated, but I need to communicate that because
Mm,
in my head, I'm a very short fuse person. So
mhm,
normally I overreact, I'll say it right away. And to me, like, I'm just getting my feelings out. But I've learned I need to take a step back, center myself, and then have the conversation. But
mhm,
what I can't do is go radio silent in between. And
mhm,
this was actually happening a lot recently where I would get upset and want to collect my thoughts and I would just be silent. And then Chris would be confused because he doesn't know why I'm upset and I'm not communicating. All of that to say is I have learned, I knew from day one, communicate, be open and honest, but I didn't realize how it sounds silly, but communicate that you're going to communicate. Like say, I'm not in a place to talk right now. I'm trying to collect myself. I do want to have this conversation when I'm in a better headspace
Yeah.
because those conversations are always more productive versus
Mhm,
me just getting upset, yelling, screaming, crying, and
mhm.
then we've just been defensive the whole time. So it's still a work in progress. We're not perfect, but we recently had a little bit of a heated discussion and we truly at the end, I swear it was like a recap, like we were on the show again. We were like, wow, this would have gone so differently in the beginning of our marriage. And we
Yeah.
really were hearing, we were accepting, we were what's that trend? Like I listen and I don't judge. We were
Listen, we
just
don't judge.
yeah, we were really hearing each other versus hearing what we wanted to hear from the other person. So
Mhm.
it was good. And we're just happy. I mean,
That's
we
good.
just trying to find new things to do. It's going to snow here. So we're like, why are we in the South? But it's fine. It's fine.
That's awesome. Because, everyone always wants to give the first piece of advice about relationships or marriage is communicate, but it's harder than you
Hmm.
can imagine. And everyone thinks, oh, they're good at it. And then you have a mirror to yourself, and it's like, I have ways to learn. I have things to learn. So,
Yeah. I mean, talking to someone and communicating with them are completely different. And there's also nonverbal communication, which
mhm,
I've also learned is huge. And when we are having an argument, I try to be mindful of hugging Chris, and he will put his arm around me just to show, even though our words are not matching, we're
mhm.
still there for each other. So that's something that I never even thought of. And it really is very hard, but that's as long as you're open to trying those things with
Yeah,
your partner, it makes life easier.
that's good. Well, you could give some lessons to this season, but how are we feeling about this season? Because it is not looking good, except for one couple, and even that. But wow.
So it's definitely not looking good, but I will say, and I kind of hate myself for saying this, but I love this season because it is entertaining. Like
Yes.
last season, I kind of want to forget that happened because that was just painful. But this is entertaining. Every week there's someone new doing something. Like, I don't want to miss any of these episodes. So
Yeah.
I really like this season, but I don't think that's the right reason to like it. Um, I do I do think the experts are doing a better job. They're more involved, or they're just showing them more, maybe. But compared to my experience, I think the experts are more involved. And I think that this cast, even though they're not doing so great in the marriages, I like that they're a little older. Some of them seem to be a little more mature than they've had in the past. So I think we're heading in the right direction, but not in terms of marriage success. I mean, that's just kind of gone at this point.
Yeah, I think for a season where it's friendship or whatever it is, I'm entertained, but most of the time I'm filled with rage, Nicole. And
I
I
get it.
guess
Yeah.
it's still an emotion. So as long as they're getting some kind of emotion from me, it's a success. I don't know, but I'm not bored.
Right. And you're not watching it like, why am I watching this? It's like, oh, I want
Mhm,
to see what happens next, or what is going to come out of her mouth next, or,
mhm.
I'm constantly waiting for the next episode. But I'm also very angry because there are situations. Why are we doing this?
Yeah,
Why? Which I'm sure we'll get into detail, but
yeah.
I have many thoughts.
Okay. So 1 month anniversary. Can you give any behind the scenes with that? Like, how much are the producers involved, and do they plan the dates for you guys, or do you guys plan the dates, or how does that work entirely?
That is a great question. And I apologize if you hear my dogs in the background, but that's just life with dogs. And it's a way for them to check in and say they're doing okay. So our 1 month anniversary, Chris planned our date because he wanted to take me on a helicopter ride, and the show could not. They I guess they asked the husbands, like, what do you want to do for the anniversary? And he said he
Okay.
wanted to do that. And they said because of insurance and legal reasons, they could not be a part of a helicopter ride, which I don't fully understand. So he had to pay for it and plan it himself. And they couldn't even film us at, like, standing next to the helicopter. So if you
Okay.
go back and want to watch it,
Okay.
you'll see us like before the helicopter and after. And then Chris's brother actually came with us so he could diary cam our 1 month anniversary
Oh,
for the show.
okay.
So Chris actually planned that, but in terms of our dinner, the show planned it. Like, we actually loved the restaurant we went to, but we had never heard of it. They just said this is the date and time, whatever it is. So I would assume other couples have some sort of involvement, but no one's actually planning it or paying for anything, because with any activity on the show, they have to get clearance for filming and having the crew there. So production does plan it, I guess, with some input from the husbands, maybe the wives. It seemed like picked the picnic on this
Yeah.
episode, but there is a filming difference in when you go do your activity and then you sit and look at the book and watch the video usually. So
Yeah.
I guess it depends on everyone's
Yeah.
schedule, really. But I mean,
Oh.
I don't know how much time you have, but we threatened to quit on our 1 month anniversary. So it's a very sore subject for me, but
Oh.
it actually made us, I can tell you, I can make it short.
Yeah.
Very long story short. So we had this wonderful dinner, and the whole dinner they kept pushing, do you love each other yet? What do you need to see from each other? And we were just so happy after this helicopter ride. Like, we just want to be happy. We just want to enjoy the conversation, whatever it is. So we were getting annoyed. And they separate you when you do your OTFs, the little
Mhm.
confessional interview, whatever's. And I'm sitting there. I think they had already given us the wedding book. And I'm sitting there looking through it, and I'm laughing at all the pictures and having the time of my life. And I hear Chris like storming off. What's going on? So then our producer is like, don't tell Nicole yet. Or actually do tell her. I don't care. I'm like, okay. Like, I have literally no idea what's going on. So we get in the car, and this was one of the few times I've seen him fuming. And again, long story short, they basically kept pushing to him. They were like pointing out my flaws and saying, how do you feel about that? How do you feel when she does this? And do you think you're just pussyfooting around her feelings because you don't want to tell her the truth, and you guys aren't being honest with each other? There's no way that you're not having issues. You just don't want to speak the truth, yada, yada, yada. So
Wow.
Chris was furious, which then got me furious because, like I stated, I have a short fuse. So by the time we got home and they wanted to film us watching our wedding video, I refused. We took off our mics, we unplugged our cameras, and I said, we're not going to be treated like this. We're not going to be separated and try to be torn apart. We're the only happy couple. And we met with the producers and said we were going to quit. And then they filmed us going down the hall like it was a TMZ moment. It was crazy, but we came to a resolution and we were okay. But that's why watching our wedding video, it was
Yeah.
just filled with so much anger and anxiety because we were so tense. But it was really nice that we got to see the video because that's the first time you see yourself
Hmm.
on TV while you're filming. So I
Yeah.
think that's a really cool moment. But the book is kind of like you don't see your wedding photos either. So the book is kind of the first
First
time
time.
you really see you and your
Yeah.
families together. So it is a nice moment, even if you're not having a happy marriage, I would imagine.
And I think this story is a reminder of every time people on reality TV, they do tell us there's the editing, there's producer interference. And even for someone like me that watches so many reality shows, I'm like trying to remember that, but it's very easy to forget that. And they're just things you're never going to know as a viewer. And who's going to have this context? So it's just a reminder that, wow, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes that we don't know.
Yeah, and I fall for it too. I mean, even in this episode, again, I'm sure we'll get to it, but there are moments where I misjudge someone and I have to be reminded, hey, you don't know what happened there, or that was part of a conversation that was probably a bigger conversation. I'm like, oh yeah, I fall into viewer mode, I call it. It's
Yeah.
hard. You get caught up, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and all you see is what they want you to see. So we
Yeah.
try to offer grace.
And I promise we're going to get into the episode, but I have
Yeah,
one
no,
last
no, it's
question.
fine. Yeah.
When you guys go on dates, even if it's not
Mhm.
1 month anniversary, so do they like stop you mid conversation and say, "Oh no, talk about this. Oh, say this," or things like that? Like, how do they come in?
Oh, well, they come in hot. There's no subtlety about it. So, with our producers specifically, I can only speak to my
Yeah.
experience, but before the date, they would say, "We would love for you to discuss X, Y, and Z." So it's totally not scripted. They're not saying, "Nicole, tell Chris, you want to buy a house with him one day, whatever it is." But they would say, like, "Nicole, talk about what you want your housing situation to be in the future." So they would tell you the topics that they want you to talk about, and if the conversation was going in a different direction, if it was just the two of you, they would generally stop us and say, "Okay, why don't we talk about this now?" Or, "Chris, you told me that yesterday. Why don't you tell Nicole?" But if we were in a group setting, they had this app on their phone where they would write whatever it was, and they
Mhm.
would literally hold it up and it would flash at you.
Oh
So
my
if
god.
you pay close attention in group settings and you see people looking around, it's because they're reading the phones. So we always joke on my season, we would see the phones and it would drive me nuts. So I would always ask the questions because if someone didn't ask, another producer would hold the phone, another producer would hold the phone. And it's just very distracting. So again, they're not telling you what to say, but they're guiding you on what
What?
should be talked about. So when you
Yeah.
hear things like, how do you feel where we are today? Questions that don't seem genuine, it's usually a producer question being fed to them. But
Wow.
you decide if you want to ask the question or not. No one's
Yeah.
forcing you.
Mhm.
You can ignore them, but for me, it was very annoying. So I would just ask.
And do they pay for the dates?
They do. So they pay for the dates. They pay for pretty much everything except for like normal like groceries and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, they pay for your apartment while you're there. They pay for the dates, transportation. That's always covered. Like they'll arrange everything, so you don't even
Okay.
have to deal with it. But you're with your producer pretty much 24/7 besides work and sleep. So you'll usually go with them or they'll meet you somewhere, but they make sure everything's taken care of. So that's kind of nice at least.
Okay. Well, I mean, we know about the producers from last season. Someone got so close to one, so um
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Silly.
okay. I know there are people yelling now, like, just talk about the episode. So we are gonna go into the episode and we're gonna go couple by couple. And I'm gonna
Great.
start with Carla and Juan. Personally think they're DOA and
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
just going through the motions at this point, and it's so sad because on paper they look so good together. They're a very attractive couple, Ladies, are you feeling overwhelmed by hormonal changes? If you're a woman, you're definitely not alone. There are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living rent free in our environment right now. In our food, our water, the air we breathe, the clothes we wear, our skincare, and they all mess with our hormones. Then there's the natural hormonal changes our bodies go through. There's perimenopause, there's menopause. Whew, it's a lot. And while it's a natural process, it doesn't mean we don't suffer through it. But I have good news for you. We don't have to suffer through any of this anymore because now we have Hormone Harmony, a formula made only with herbal ingredients that are shown to reduce hormonal symptoms in women of all ages. Happy Mammoth, the company that created Hormone Harmony, is dedicated to making women's lives easier, and that means using only science-backed ingredients that have been proven to work for women. They make no compromise when it comes to quality, and it shows. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code AltarCallMAFS at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code AltarCallMAFS, that's AltarCallMAFS, for 15% off today. And it's just fallen flat.
I completely agree. And I feel like they're actually a very good example for all the couples who say, I don't find them physically attractive. Like, these are two very attractive people, but you don't have to be physically attractive or I guess I'm saying it backwards, but there's no chemistry there and they're not into each other, but it has nothing to do with the physical. So
Yeah.
couples who say, well, I can't feel the spark because the physical is not there. Physical doesn't have to be there, but I'm really bummed because I actually really like both of them as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly don't know what the issue is because I think the experts did a great job matching them. I think they're both wonderful. I just think they're not each other's perfect or close to perfect match. And I think it's just too short of a process for them. Like, if they had dated, maybe, but I just it's just not going to happen.
I think she's feeding off of his energy, and his energy is just, I'm not into it. I think he's just
Hmm.
not attracted to, I want to say her way of life, and that sounds bad. It sounds like she has like a bad way of life. It's not that, but he's very tunnel visioned in what he
Hmm.
thinks or how things should be. And on the flip side, I'm like, I hope he's not here to promote his app. I don't know. I'm still on the fence about that. And she's feeding off his energy. If he was feeling her, then I think that they would be, they would go together. She's kind of protecting herself and is like, if he's not into it, I'm not into it. But this whopper of a preview they showed us for next week, I think I saw Dr. Pia yelling at someone for lying about their sex life, which we tend to have that often. And I'm
Hmm.
wondering if they've had sex because I've had one of my guests ask, like, oh, do you think they'll have sex? And I'm like, I feel there'll be alcohol involved. Wait, that sounds bad, but you guys know what I mean.
I know, yeah, yeah.
And because he did say he was attracted to her in the beginning when they were like in the honeymoon and they were getting the massage and something. And that's what's wrong with the men this season. What is flipping? The same thing with Ikechi, which we will get into. And it's like, what happened? What's going on? So I wonder if they have had sex, which is even going to be more confusing to me.
I think, and again, I'm pure speculation here, but I think whether or not they've had sex, that he is or was physically attracted to her, but her, as you said, it way of life, her lifestyle, how she's just so carefree, I think
Yeah.
that really turned him off.
Yeah.
And I don't think it matters to him if they've had sex because
Mm.
I can see him is seeing their future together and just being so put off by, he's biking 30 miles in the morning and she's
Hmm.
sleeping till noon. And listen, I'm more like him than her, but I envy her because she's just living, doing her best that she can in life, just enjoying herself. I
Hmm.
have a feeling she is way more responsible than we're led to believe. Even
Hmm.
when she quits her job, I would imagine that she has income lined up. She has her clients. She has a steady stream of those coming in. She didn't just quit her job one day with no plan, but they don't want us to know that.
Mm.
I just think he doesn't like how she lives her life and was so turned off and is now just giving up, but doesn't want to be a jerk about it. So
Yeah.
I think he's very aware of how he comes off on camera.
Mm. And that's the problem. It's like the same thing with Michelle, giving the benefit of the doubt. Like, yes, is this a red flag for you? Yes. File that away, but don't let it deter you from actually seeing what else is there. Because again, even if you dated, you're not going to like 100% of everything of the person. But it's like,
Right.
is it 80%? Is it not? Like she might live a carefree life, but I think we saw a different side of her when she was like, I'm low energy. I like things a certain way, put more effort. And then we find out he's actually more of the kooky person. Cause
That was surprising. Yes.
I don't know if you saw the after party episode where he was like, something pooped on him and he was like, oh my God, I'm so blessed. Like they pooped. I'm like, okay, Juan, we get it.
Which is why I think if they dated, they would actually work, because a lot of the things that I think he doesn't like about her, he's learning by living with her and spending all this time with her. But if they had dated and they eased into it, it might be a little different. But again,
Yeah.
we don't know. We just have to guess.
So, I mean, this episode, Juan took Carla to his warehouse, and I thought it was their date. And I'm like, sir, like, we're talking about business, even which is what made me think, like, is he just here for his app or his business or whatever? Because it almost feels like he's always trying to lecture her
Yes.
and be her dad, and that's not sexy, and that's not a turn on for anyone, because it's almost like you're telling her, like patting her in her head and saying like, okay, I can teach you, child. And that's not a good way to start.
Right. Like I think he has good intentions, because he keeps saying she can use my marketing team. I want to help her. But right now she's looking for a husband.
Yeah.
And of course, you want a supportive husband, but get to know her as a wife first before you try to help her with her business. And
Yep.
to your point, I think he's like, ooh, she's a project that I can take on and I can help her thrive. But figure out your marriage first, and then you can thrive together. So
Hmm.
I just don't see it working between them, but I feel like it could have. So
Yeah.
I'm bummed, because whatever happens with them, I love her, and I will absolutely be reaching out to her when the show is over, because I want her to be my friend.
Well, while they're on their warehouse business date or whatever it was, she just said, I have some news. And then she shares that she left her job. And one is like, oh my God. And I think, okay, not to be crass or anything, I was like, you could just feel his boner just die. Like, okay, this is
Yeah.
the absolute, like, this is not going to work. And he's like, what happened? She's like, I found out that I couldn't be managed. Like, I need to be on my own. It sounds like she was fired to me, but she said it was mutual. And she said she is the direction, and Juan is like so concerned about that. And he's like, he made a comment where I think he caught himself when you said he's aware of the camera. He said, I'm curious to see how her life turns out. And then I think he changed it to like, just in general, whether we end up together or not. I'm curious to see how her life turns out. So, I mean, we're on the same page. I don't think this is gonna
It's just
go anywhere.
not the fit. But
Yeah.
again, I think whether she was fired or not, I think she has a plan, and they just don't want to share it with us. So we're led to believe she is stupid, for lack of a better word, but she's not.
Well, they go on an actual date, which is yet another picnic. And
Yeah, weird.
I'm like, we could have tried. And it was so windy, it didn't seem comfortable at all anyway. But they get their basket because every couple got that basket of, like you mentioned, their wedding photos. And I chuckled when she asked for the juice because it's the $10 juice they kind of argued about in the beginning. And then again, Juan starts peppering her with questions. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do with your clients? Have you talked to your client? Is it on paper? Do you have it in writing? And I'm like, again, relax. Can it be fun? Can you
Right.
shelve
It's your
it?
anniversary. Can we not talk about work right now? So it was a little off-putting, to say the least, but that to me sounded like a producer-led situation, because I could imagine him being, or them asking him, ask her about her clients, ask her what her plan is, and then him just running with it. But she had an answer, even if it wasn't the answer he wanted.
Yeah.
She did not seem to be frantic or nervous about his questioning. So I was really proud of her for not holding her own. That sounds so like, I mean, she just answered questions. It wasn't that amazing, but she gave it back to him right as much as he
Yeah.
asked her. So that wasn't an anniversary conversation. Like, talk about
No.
love or your relationship or anything else.
Yeah, she did take it in stride. But when he was peppering her with all the questions, I'm like, oh, Ikechi would hate this.
Oh my
So
God.
he
Yeah.
doesn't want any questions. But I do also think that Juan is one of those people who thinks that resting is a bad thing. Like you
Mm-hmm.
always have to keep busy. And I'm just like, I don't know. Don't run away from your thoughts, sir. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, couldn't
Agreed.
tell if she was irritated or not, but I'm sure she was irritated. But
I was
she's better than
irritated.
two of us. Yeah, she was better than both of us. But I'm curious to see where this goes. I have a feeling that that preview we saw, a lot of it was the what is it called? The after the show ends when they do those extra episodes.
The aftermath.
After the yeah, the
Yeah.
aftermath, it felt like that's what it was. But we'll see what happens. But in general, they don't show a lot of Juan and Carla. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe because there's nothing to show really. So it's kind of painful.
Probably. I mean, they're kind of boring, but I don't know. I always forget they're on the show. I'm like, oh yeah, they're the pretty couple, but
Yeah,
I still
it's
like
not
her.
working. Well, let's go into a couple that never bores us, which is David and Michelle.
Oh, how much time do you have?
A lot of time.
Just
I think again, the consensus is Michelle, it's fine that you're not attracted to him for whatever your reasons are that you don't even know. I don't think Michelle knows herself, but that's
mm-hmm.
just my thing. But it's very important how you talk to people and how you treat people. And that's just the main thing that's my issue with Michelle at this point is like this whole condescending thing that she does with David is insufferable. I it drives me nuts.
It's truthfully unacceptable as a human to watch another human be treated like that. And
Mhm.
I don't know either of them personally. There could be a ton we're not seeing, and she could be a lovely person, but the way she's treating him is unfair. Like I have no fault with her for not being attracted to him, not feeling a connection, because that's a very personal thing. And you don't have to be attracted or feel a connection with your partner just because you're married. But the way she's treating him is just not okay. She's mean, and we don't need to be mean in this. And they're in this
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
She's constantly acting like he's doing this to her. Like he
Yeah.
made her or he duped her. Like he, if anything, was too honest from the start.
Yeah.
It's not like he flipped a switch one day and said, "Oh, joke's on you. I actually live at home and I'm a smoker." Like, he's been honest from day one, and she didn't like that, and that's her prerogative. But she's being really mean to him. She's so condescending, and I just don't think that's fair. And she has no consideration for his feelings. So
Mhm.
I honestly want to know why she was picked for this show because she seems very uncomfortable with change, unwilling to compromise, very emotionally immature. So, as nice as she might be to her friends and family, this is how you treat other people. Like she's so worried about bringing him to a work event, but how are you treating your coworkers? How are you treating your CEO or
Yeah.
whoever it is you were nervous about him meeting? So, I don't like it. If she was my friend in real life, I would pull her aside and be like, "Why are you talking to your man like this or anyone like
Yeah.
this? It's not a good look." And I don't like it. I just don't think they're a good match, truthfully. So I kind of blame the experts on this one, and they're backpedaling with showing all the footage, whatever. But she could still be kind to him. He never did anything hurtful or mean to her.
I went back to watch the matchmaking special to see if there was some inkling to how she was. It's still inconclusive for me, but she didn't seem as stick up her ass as she does now. She seemed very carefree. She seemed very, oh, have fun, I'll do this. And on the after party, when Keisha asked the guests, well, the other participants, like, was she like this with you guys? They all say she wasn't, that they had no idea that this was happening. So I think I'll give the experts some grace on this, but I just don't know how you can be two different people. But she's also a different person on After Party now.
Yeah.
So I don't know how she's shape shifting, but she is, and I can see how this happened with the experts because I specifically went. I was just like, how did she make it through? And she seemed carefree. She's not as tense, and maybe the situation is what's making her tense. But she keeps telling us that she's a control freak. She's this. She likes to be in her comfort zone. That's where she shouldn't have
Right.
been cast. Yes, she shouldn't have been matched.
And I totally agree. I think it has so much to do with, so maybe we won't blame the experts so much as the casting people who bring these options to the experts. But She just shouldn't have been on the show. This is not the show for someone who's not willing to compromise. And
Mhm.
she doesn't have to change her beliefs or what she wants in a man. Like, that's
Mhm.
totally fine. But she's not even open to having a civil conversation with him where every conversation has to be combative, and I don't think that's good for her as a person, and
Yeah.
that's not a good experience for us to watch as viewers. Every
Yeah.
time I see them on the screen, I get anxious. So I'm like, what is she going to say to him now?
Yeah.
And granted, they're painting it very one-sided, so I can guarantee that there are things we're not seeing on his end that he might be doing that we wouldn't agree with either, but it's very easy to paint this narrative that she's the villain because that's how she's acting. So I just wish she was kinder to him. I mean,
Yeah.
she of all people could take so much personal growth from this experience. We
Mhm.
know it's not ending in a marriage or in a successful marriage. So
Mhm.
she could at least take it for what it is, but she's not even open to that. And she just
Yeah.
gets frustrated when the experts try to talk to her. So she's obviously not willing to even grow as a person, and it's unfortunate. It's honestly a waste of a spot, for
Yeah.
lack of a better way to call it, for someone who could have been matched with David or matched with someone else and learn
Yeah.
from this. But
Yeah.
everything she's picking on, like his clothes. Come on, leave him alone. You're at a solo sushi restaurant. No one else is there. What do you care what he's wearing? He didn't have time to go home. Like, give him a break.
I am on her side on this, Nicole. I am on her side. I saw it and I thought it, but then when she started complaining about it, then I was on his side. I was like, I don't give a fuck what he's wearing. From all the way that you treat him, he
Hmm.
can dress as badly as he wanted to. But if it was like a regular healthy relationship, even if he was going home, you take your nice jacket with you to your house, and because you're going on a date afterwards, you put some thought into it and then you wear your jacket. But it is Michelle. She's not giving him anything. She
Right.
doesn't deserve his nice sports jacket or sports coat or whatever it is. But when I saw him, I was like, oh God, this is not good. Like, he could have tried.
I will say, ironically, when he showed up for the anniversary dinner in a t-shirt, I was like, after the sushi date, this is what you wear. But then Michelle was like, I'm so happy he showed up. I know it was hard for him because I didn't realize that he came from his work break and that's why he was dressed how he was. So I
Yeah.
was like, damn, I did it myself. Like, I was judging him and I didn't know all the context. But
Yeah.
also in a normal, quote unquote, normal situation, like if Chris and I went on a date and he was dressed down like he shouldn't have been, I'd be like, you're not wearing that next time. Or like, why aren't we getting dressed together? Why aren't you asking him what he's going to wear to your date tonight if you're so concerned? So that just shows me that they're not spending any time together.
Oh, they are not. This is a part where I was like, the experts cast somebody who is working the night shift or whatever. What does he call it? The first
The
shift or
second
something?
shift,
Second shift?
something.
Yeah. And he was not going to have time with anyone else, but I guess they're making the best out of it. But their 1 month celebration is going to dinner, and she says that she's wearing the earrings that she wore on her wedding day. She's trying to do her hair the way that it was on their wedding day. On a normal occasion, I'll be like, oh, that's nice. But I don't know if you've heard me say it a million times, I am tired of giving kudos for people trying instead of doing what they're supposed to do. So they're meeting at a sushi restaurant. This man keeps claiming that he likes it. He doesn't like it. He's just
No,
doing his bend over backwards thing for Michelle. And he says that he's hoping to show her that he can live the lifestyle that she wants and hope she's happy. And I'm like, Michelle and happy? No, sir, that's not going to happen. But she starts nitpicking on him and is like,
mm-hmm.
what made you want to do sushi? Is this your date outfit? Oh, you don't think that you should try? And then with her laugh, and I'm like, Michelle, I can't. I just,
It's very childish. Quite frankly, if you told me she was 22 instead of what, 38, 39, I would believe you because it's very childish. It's You don't have to like this man romantically to sit and have a normal conversation and not
yeah.
pick on him. Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, he probably didn't pick sushi. Maybe he was like sushi would be cool and production set it up. So why are we grilling him on what he's wearing and what he's eating and why? Like, just have a nice conversation. What was she annoyed about that he didn't ask her, or she asked him, "Is this where you thought we'd be?" And he didn't ask her back. Like, well, obviously, this is not where she thought you guys would be. So why would he ask? Why would he waste his breath? I
I
was
thought
so
that was
annoyed.
a I thought that was a cruel question. Actually, I said it was laughable, but I thought that was a cruel question. Like, is this where you thought you'd be at 1 month, knowing that the reason why you're here is because of you? So to say that even as a joke, I'm just like, it's not funny. Like,
Right. And
if
then
anything,
saying her happiness, she's the only one who could make herself happy. That I was like, kick her off the show right now because yes, granted, like you're responsible for your happiness, but if you're not willing to let someone in to make you happy, what are you doing? Why are you married?
yeah, and it's part of her digs because he said, no, it's not where I thought we would be. I'm frustrated that I can't make you happy. And the way she phrases it, she's like, you get that right, that I'm responsible for my own happiness. Why do you have to say you get that right? Like, why are you mad at him? And she's like, you're setting yourself up for failure. Like, the choice of words, of all the
Mm-hmm.
words you can use in this whole wide world, is what really is frustrating. And it's almost like, from the way she's described herself, like she hears herself saying these things and wants to stop, but she can't stop.
Yeah,
And she's
I
like, I
could see
just
that.
have to get it out of my heart. And I just have to be mean. And that's even more concerning to me, that she
It's
feels
very
like she's doing
cruel.
that.
Like
Mhm.
it's almost like she wants to bring him down so he will stop trying. But if that's the case, quit the show. I know we want to see people make it to the end, but I don't want to see them make it to the end. Like this is it's just unfair at this point. Quit the show. If you don't want him to be nice to you, leave. You can
So
leave.
let me ask this. So, behind the scenes, from your knowledge, what are the
Mhm.
things that keep people, like people who know that this is not going to work? Do producers try to keep them to stay on the show, or is there some kind of, rule?
Well, technically, you're contractually obligated to stay on the show. There is a clause in the contract saying that you're financially liable for a certain amount if you leave the show early because you not being on the show is technically losing them earnings,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
So before was it I don't know what the first season it was the San Diego season, I think. I don't know, one of the seasons before mine was the first time a couple had left before decision day, and now it just seems to be the trend. But at the same time, I think producers want to keep people, but if you're not going to participate and you're not going to film, I would imagine it's easier for them to just let you leave. Like for my season, Dom and Mac left right after the honeymoon, but they still had to come back and film like the reunion and the where are they now and the aftermath stuff. So they still had filming obligations. But of course, production wants to keep you there. I mean, most of the couples, us included, said we were quitting at one point and they smoothed things over. But I would think some people stay till the end for fame, for notoriety, so they can at least try to get a good edit. Because if you leave early and it's your fault, you're automatically the villain. So I don't know why they're staying, but let them go.
So how about when the experts ask them, do you want to stay or do you want to leave? Is that just the show, or like,
No, that's real. I mean, again, every conversation is different and specific, but I would think that the your producers are always there. So if you're
yeah,
saying it for the first time to the experts, your producers overhear it, and then obviously conversations are had behind the scenes following that. So I think for Dom and Mac, they had that conversation with Pastor Cal, and that was the first time they said it out loud. And then of course producers tried to get them to stay, but it was kind of dead at that point. So I mean, it seems like Akechi and MM are not going to be together after this episode. I can't confirm that, but I feel like he left and has no intention of coming back. But we're still on David and Michelle. I just think
yeah,
the show should cut them off because it's not getting anywhere. We're not seeing any growth. We're not seeing any fun. They're not bringing any
yeah,
value besides us just feeling really annoyed.
yeah. Well, going back to Michelle, because she's just looking for something to be mad at, she starts being snarky and was like, oh, going back to how I thought we should be at our 1 month since you didn't ask me.
Mm-hmm.
And she has the audacity to say that she asked all the questions. And I'm just glad that David is snapping back, because that's ridiculous. I think she was one who said, I don't want to answer any questions. You asked too many questions. It's overwhelming. And now she's like, you never asked me any questions about them. I don't feel, great about us. I don't feel great about the relationship. And there's no connection. And I don't know how to move forward. And Dave says it is tough to hear. And she has to have the last word. And is like, well, it's tough to say. Oh my God.
Is it though? Was that hard to say? It sounds like it slid off her tongue. That's what I'm saying. Just let them go, cut ties. We don't need to see this. They're obviously not going to work. He's doing everything he can. She's doing everything she can to run away from this without leaving. So I feel bad for him. I truly do.
It's just, I don't know. They come home to their basket. They get their wedding video, not pictures. I think the experts are like, you got to see this in person. And David is tearing up, and Michelle is just not even. I don't think she even realized that he was tearing up. I think she was just hyper focused on the TV screen and wasn't going to say anything. But the way she was speaking, she sounded like it's done. But I'm just tired of Dave just always being like, "Oh, I'm glad you're sharing your thoughts." It's her negative thoughts, and then he's apologizing. Like the whole thing is just infuriating. Like, stop apologizing. Like,
Yeah, I will say I also think he is very aware of the cameras, and I think he maybe not putting it on. I think he's being genuine, but I think he's trying a little extra hard to show that he's literally giving it his all, because at the end
mm-hmm,
of the day, he wants to be able to say like, "There's the proof. I did everything I could." Whereas
mm-hmm,
most men would just be like, "Go away. You're so mean and you're not speaking kindly to me. I'm not going to put up with this." So I don't see him as the kind of guy who would sit there and take that kind of behavior normally. So I
mm,
think he's really going out of his way to try to, I'm sorry you feel this
yeah.
way. Thank you for sharing. No one wants to hear that. No one says thank you for being a bitch to me all the time. No one. I'm sorry. No one is appreciative of that.
Yeah. And that's a good point because I think generally most people is like, why won't Michelle end this? But also, he can. Like, you don't have to put up with this behavior, but this sounds terrible, but their apartment is nice. Maybe he's just enjoying staying in the apartment instead
Maybe.
of staying in his parents' basement over there. Okay, let's talk about Madison and Alan, another couple that is done. And I didn't really think about it till you said it. Like, yes, they are aware of the cameras, or no one wants to be like the villain, and everyone is hiding behind. At least I'm trying,
Right.
and I think that's where Madison is with Alan because nothing is gonna come out of this relationship.
No, I mean, they're never going to have a romantic relationship, but I actually believe she is trying, because I think she knows he is the kind of man she should be with. But I think she also knows that he is the man she will never be with. So I really do think she's doing everything she can to try to at least say on decision day, I did my best, or wherever they make it to, if they go through the whole process. But
Hmm.
it's not there and you can't force it. But I think both of them are getting a lot of personal growth out of this. So, as honestly, they're kind of boring to me. Like, I don't want to see people fight, but I want to see people have engaging conversations, or, just do anything entertaining. But they're kind of blah a little bit. But she also, they remind me a lot of me and Chris, but I can't describe why. I thought she kind of looked like me a little bit, but that's not really it. I don't know. It just,
I
he's
don't
such a
see it.
sweet guy. I don't see it either. It was just on the wedding day. I was like, oh, she's like a blonde me. But I think he's just such a sweet guy, and she is very, she knows what she wants, and I think she's good at communicating that. But just because you communicate it doesn't mean that the person can magically be a different person. So I think he's trying his best to make her happy, but it's not going to be enough for either of them. So I don't see it.
So I think I know you said she's trying. I think Madison is Michelle with self-awareness.
Yeah.
I think she's just able to catch herself, but she does do some condescending things, but she does it with a smile. And whether it makes sense or not, maybe it's just quote unquote respectful. even though low key it's disrespectful. I don't know if any of that made sense, but
No, it does. It does. Because she's not mean. What to your
yeah,
point, like she's saying a lot of the same type of things Michelle's saying, like I don't like your style and you don't go to the gym and I'm not attracted to you, whatever it is, but she's at least not being cruel about it. So
yeah,
whether or not that comes from a genuine place or she is aware of the cameras, at least she's not intentionally hurting his feelings. Whereas Michelle is like, what can I say to you today that's going to upset you enough so you leave? Is how I'm
okay,
taking it.
yeah. I want you to be as sad as I am.
Right, right.
It's just unfortunate that broccoli underwear is their demise. I mean, I'm sure it's deeper than that, but that's what she's telling us. And she was like, it was fine until she saw his underwear. And I just like, how? Why? Because the wedding was so great. That's the other
Yeah.
thing that's so hard to, understand is like what changed. Again, everyone says it's alcohol, but if that's the case, they got drunk the other day, nothing changed. So I really wish we knew what the switch was. And the unfortunate thing about some of these things is they know their reasons, but they also know like it's just best not to say it on national television. So we're never going to really know what the issue is.
I mean, they might not even know. It could just be, I hate to say the ick because it's such a overused phrase, but it could just be the ick and it's very hard for some people to get over it, but broccoli boxers should not be the
Yeah.
demise. That seems so like she was even more into him at the wedding than he was into her. It was
Yeah.
very confusing, but
Yeah.
I think she knows they're not going to work, but she at least does not want to hurt his feelings. Like even he says, I forget the exact question he asked her, but something about what are things we need to work on or what are our pain points? And she was like, "Do we have to talk about that today? It's our
Mhm.
anniversary." So she knows that they have to have a conversation because she's not or it's not trending in the direction she wants, but she's at least mindful enough of let's enjoy a special day, not talk about business or your flaws or what you're wearing. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I feel bad because they both seem, well, he seems very nice. She seems very fun, is the word I'll use, but I don't know.
I
I,
do
I
wonder how
sorry.
we would have I do wonder how it would have gone with Alan and Michelle because Alan is what Michelle is looking for in terms of lifestyle and income, even though she's not saying it and all that stuff. So I wonder if that would have worked out better.
I don't know so much about Alan and Michelle, but I think Madison and David would have been a better match because they're both fun and they
Yeah.
are both willing to do things. It's not like they're not willing to change, compromise, try new things. They
Yeah.
they are. I think they would be a better match. And Michelle and Alan would honestly bore me to tears. I would not watch a show with them as a couple, but that is an interesting point. And she could mold him however she wants because he's very willing to change anything about himself, it seems.
Well, if they're going to be boring, it's going to be Michelle. I don't think Alan is boring. I think Alan is pretty fun and pretty cool, actually. As Keisha says, he has swag.
He's not for me, is all I'll say. Like he seems nice. Everyone to me seems nice through the TV, but he's not my cup of tea. So I think that's why I give Madison a little extra grace because I would probably feel the same way she feels about him. If I were matched with Alan, I would be Madison right now. So it's very hard for me to say anything bad about her, even though I don't think that she's into him even a little bit.
I want to hear more. Do you know what the thing is, or it's
No,
just a vibe?
I don't know. I literally don't even know a single spoiler. I know nothing about this season, but it's something about his energy that I'm gonna say it gives me the ick a little bit. It's not the broccoli boxers that wouldn't bother me, but it's it's almost that he's so willing to change, compromise, do all these things, but then at the same time he's very passive aggressive and he's retaliative in certain ways, like with the flag football. So I can't get a read on him. I'm like, are you moldable and you'll be a little bitch boy and do whatever she wants? Or are you standing up for yourself and putting your foot down in situations where you don't need to do that? So it's just very confusing. And it has nothing to do with his looks or his style or
Yeah.
anything. It's more just his energy that he gives off. And I don't think he knows the appropriate time to have a serious or important conversation. And I also don't think that he will ever make a move because he's always
Yeah.
so nervous and he always says like, "Oh, I wanted to, but I didn't." And I think
Yeah.
she's the type of woman who's like, "Just make the move. Just do it. We're married. We're here. Just do it. If I say no, I say no, but just do it."
It's a catch 22 because he's feeding off of her energy. And that's why I say, like, I see Madison and Michelle in the same. It's just that she does it with a smile. So it seems harder because Madison gives up the vibe like she thinks she's way harder than him and he should be grateful. And I don't like that. And again,
I
could
could
be
see
me
that.
just projecting it, but the way she always says that. So on one hand, she knows that she has someone who thinks that way because he does think that way. Like, oh, you're so hot, and I wouldn't get anyone like this without this process. And she's also saying all these things like you don't have discipline, you don't work out, you don't whatever. And it's like, okay, where do we stand? Where do we go? And she's not involving him in her life. Like even when they go through
Yeah.
their wedding photos and they're talking about how fun it is, Alan is like showering her with compliments. And for her, when the experts came, for her to say he doesn't give her compliments, that's
That was
insane to
weird.
me. You
Mhm.
see, so she's just coming up with stuff, and I'm just like, Madison, okay. So he does rightfully ask her, like, what happened? Like the sparks that day, like seeing it makes her, she said she realized why she enjoyed the day, but she didn't know anything about him and he was a stranger. And I'm
That
like, oh
was
my
hard to
God.
hear.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
So you got to know him and now you hate him? Like, see, I'm telling
But
you,
he
Nicole.
didn't seem bothered by that. He didn't that kind of, like, went over his head, I think, maybe her tone, because she said it. I was like, "Damn, you just said that you got to know him and now you're not attracted." But it was a very yeah, the more I'm saying it out loud, I'm agreeing with you more.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't see what she's doing, it's just because I cannot explain what it is, but she reminds me of me, so I'm having a very hard time faulting her even though I know I should be. But I think at the end of the day, they're another couple who is just not going to happen. But I don't want to see them quit because I really do think they're both going to benefit from this process. But I wish they could make it work romantically because he deserves, I don't know. I don't know what they deserve. They just maybe deserve each other, maybe not. I don't know. They're so hard
No,
to read.
they don't deserve each other, but Alan's gonna be fine after the show. But the more we talk about it, I'm feeling what you don't like is like you just want Alan to take a stance. Like,
Yeah.
just listen, if she's treating you like saying something like, I got to know you, and then something changed, you're probably like, grill her on that. Like, what do you mean? Like, so do you do this or not? But not, he's so malleable. And I think that's the other thing she asked earlier, where she was like, are you, what did she say? Are you a people pleaser or are you something to that effect? And
Yeah.
he's like, no, I'm not. But I think to some extent he is, but he's just trying to make this work because what is the difference between Alan and David? But David doesn't annoy you as much.
He doesn't annoy me as much. And I can't explain it, but yeah, with Alan, it seems like he's too much of a people pleaser. Like even with the making a move and things like that, I get it.
Mhm,
He's picking up off her energy, but I think it's a
mhm,
turn off for her that she has to constantly say like, "You could have touched me, you could have kissed me, you could have held my hand," and he's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm nervous." I said to Chris, I say it every time we watch weddings. I don't like when the men ask the women if they can kiss them, and I know it's a sign of respect, and
mhm.
I get that, and women should be respected, of course. But like it's so sexy when a man just takes charge. I mean, just kiss her. You say we don't kiss, we don't hold hands, whatever. I think she doesn't like that he's so timid and won't take this action. And she probably wants a man to jump her bones. And I feel like David, with a woman who didn't hate him, would be a man of action. So I think that's where I see the difference between them. That if David was with anyone else, he would be making moves. He would be putting forth more, I don't want to say, I'm not even going to say the word I wasn't going to say, but he would just be more forthcoming
Assertive,
and
yeah.
assertive. Yeah, that's a
Mhm.
good word for it. But I feel like Alan needs a permission slip to hold her hand or kiss her.
I think that Alan is reading it perfectly right because if you remember further down the episode where we're gonna talk about at the dinner or whatever, when they were joking about a kiss or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, I kissed her in the cheek," and something about a kiss. She's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, we're not going." So even if he did, I can totally see her turning her cheek and just he's saying, "Oh, this should do for now, buddy." And I
I'd
think
hope
he's reading it
not.
right. I think he's reading it right. It's just she wants to like him because, like he said, she knows that he's good for her, but she's just like, yeah, I cannot unlock my vagina. It's not working.
No. Yeah,
So
it's just
it
not
doesn't
there.
matter.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't he seems nice. I say that about everyone, but I think I'm just really hard on him for reasons I can't explain, but it wouldn't be the boxers for me at least. That would not bother me. I'd be like, whatever. They're
I
boxers.
I would defend Alan in those boxes till the end of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Every guest has said, and I'm like, what, guys? That was DTF to me, but okay.
Also, I live with a man. I'm married to a man who wears Spider-Man boxers, and I think they're the funniest thing. Like I'll be like, these are my boxers today, and they always have a fun character. Like, the only people seeing your boxers should be me and you. So I think this is amazing. And why do we care what's on his underpants? So
Well, I mean, like you said earlier, she's like, we don't want to talk about what the biggest roadblock is, but I would pay $5 to know what her answer would be. Maybe Kevin Frazier would get that out of her at the reunion because a lot of time has passed, but I really would like to know what her answer is because like you said, is does she actually know and it's just too mean, or maybe she doesn't know and it's, the way like you feel where it's just like I just know something's off and I don't know how to put that in words. Um
yeah.
so, yeah, she says what she wants to focus on is continuing to have the hard conversations while figuring out what is best for both of them. And I'm like, boo, this sounds like a chore. It sounds, so,
Have some fun. They're not having any, like, they're doing fun activities, but when they're not doing an activity, when they have to actually sit and talk, they're not having any fun. They're not
they,
laughing. It's sad.
we got a little bit of laughter in their adventure thing, but Alan nails it when he says he's never met someone he couldn't read as much as he can't read Madison. And I can see the frustration in that. So I think he knows the answer. He knows nothing is going to come out of it. And he's just trying to be nice and go along. And both of them are just an autopilot at this point.
Right. Well, it does
Um,
seem like when they do the activities, they're having fun and they genuinely seem to be enjoying each other on the activities. But when they're just sitting there, like, I don't want to watch them at dinner, just the two of them having dinner, because
mhm.
that to me, they're like, I don't care what they're talking about. But when they're having these adventures or activities, that's where they're really coming out of their shells. But yeah, I would
Yeah.
imagine it's frustrating that she is so hard to read, but
Yeah.
they can't all quit the show. But I'm like, they used to do. I mean, I've only been watching the show since like season 8 or 9, but they used to do like a 1 month check in where it was a little more official. Like, are you still committed to this process halfway through? And
Mhm.
now they don't do that anymore. And I think it's because they're afraid most people would say no.
Yeah.
But I feel like by the time we get to decision day, most of the couples have already checked out. They're just fulfilling their obligation.
Yeah.
But I would love to do a check in and be like, are you still trying or are you just waiting out the next 4 weeks?
I mean, here's the thing. When you said the adventure stuff, another reason why I think she's like Michelle, she thanks him for planning this stuff and, doing this, that this was fun. I don't know why he was wearing jeans, but that's a whole other
Yeah, that was
conversation.
weird. That was weird.
But it's everything that you need, but you're giving nothing.
Hmm.
So yes, you're saying thank you, you're being respectful, but it's like, how about you just allow yourself to give into the relationship? Because they were laughing and she was like, oh, this is so funny. And then when we talk about the dinner, she's like, oh, I'm doing dad jokes like Alan and this is fun. And it's like, if you just lean in to the experience, maybe something will unlock and you might actually like what you find, but it's almost like she's stopping herself like, this cannot be my end game. Like, I will not let this happen. This is not the man I'm going to walk around with. But I'm like, girl, you can do a makeover if that's the problem. You can level him up if that's your problem. Like, these are things that are fixable. Like,
Hmm.
character is not something that is so easy to fix. Like, even him being a people pleaser, I understand that that can be annoying and that's not a turn on. But we've seen a preview of him kicking the cabinets. Like the man got some oomph, so you know.
Yeah, and that can change. Like you can change a people pleaser. Is
Yeah.
That's not a problem. So shirts can change, people pleasing can change. But you're right. I don't think she'll let herself. She's like, he's not it for me. I'm not even gonna try. But
Yeah.
we'll never
So
really know. I want to know. I'm gonna ask her. You know, I'm gonna ask. I don't know if she'll answer, but
and then I'm gonna ask you, and then
yeah, of course,
we'll
of course. That's
see.
how this works.
I think to wrap them up, Alan says it best where he says, I've seen Madison trying from the beginning, but the evolution I am not seeing. And I'm like, that's where we all are. And that's why
Yeah,
I'm not giving her any points for trying. So all right, let's go to our only hope this season. They're the you of the season, which is Camille and Thomas. Are
I love
you
them.
okay? I was going to ask where you were because there are two camps. Some people think that they're just still trying and it seems forced, but they make me smile. Like, I think they're going through the experience the way it should be. There were things that, she had questions about, but she didn't let that control her the things that she did moving forward. Like she just they worked through it. They talked about things. It's kind of like letting emotions run through things. You facts are not feelings are not facts. So when you let
Agreed.
feelings or emotions take over, it's just a disaster. And I'm glad she got a rein on it, and they seem to be on a good trajectory. Even though I said this before, and they're good, but every now and then they seem a little awkward around each other. But it's cute.
I think they're actually the perfect type of couple for this experience
Mhm,
because they're not perfect. They don't align on everything, but
mhm.
they are. It's not they so much as Camille. Like she's having these roadblocks that she's able to get over. And yeah, they do seem awkward sometimes, but it's only been a month when you think about it. And they just started having sex. So now they're
Yeah.
probably trying to navigate okay, we still don't really know each other that well, but
Mhm,
we are sexually active. So it's having been there, it's a confusing spot to be in.
mm.
But I really think that they're just a pure sweet couple. And I'm I'm just gonna say because I've been through this experience, I think a lot of the things they're having issues with are production driven. Like I understand she might have some issues with the swag or whatever, the swag, 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 but I think they keep bringing up swag. Like, does he have swag today? How do you feel about his swag? What's on the swagometer? So I think
Mhm.
she has to keep bringing it up, not realizing that they're going to show it in every single episode. And yeah,
Yeah.
he does not have swag. Like, he doesn't. He screams to me like preppy, finance guy. And that might be like not be what she's into, but that can change, not fully because you can't really change a person in their core like that. But do you really need someone with swag, or have you just always been with someone like this? So I feel like they're pushing that narrative. And I think even it was funny because when he showed up late for the basketball, I
Mhm.
said, I guarantee, I would bet my life on it that he was doing something for her because they
Mm.
made such a big deal about him being late.
Yeah.
And then he says, like, oh, I was, he's being like, coy about it. And then he gives
Yeah.
her the necklace that was
Necklace.
for her. I said, I have a feeling that that's why they focus on it. But I do like that she's having issues with him, but working through them versus just writing him off. And I like
Yeah.
that he's being very respectful of that. But I
Mhm.
think I really want them to make it because I think they're very good for each other. I have no fault with him and his past and cheating and all of that. I think he thoroughly explained why and how that happened. I don't think that he's the kind of guy who's going to screw her over. So I think they could be really good for each other in the future. And if they don't make it on decision day, I will have a fit. So
But
hopefully they join me in this marriage
but
success.
they're an example of the things that you can change. All she had to do was take him to a jewelry shop, got his ears pierced, and she's like, okay, maybe later down the line, add some more, add a chain or whatever. But these are things that are fixable. Character, not so much. But yeah, you talked about the basketball game and he was late. She felt pissed that it didn't feel like a priority, but honestly, she didn't seem like she was so mad. It just seemed like he told her to be mad, but I don't know. But she didn't seem like she was that mad. about it, but he was very apologetic. And then his hammy fails him again. And I'm like, oh gosh, she has to get
He's
used to you.
old. Yeah. He's
He
not a
was just
spring
over.
chicken. We can't be making him do suicides. Camille, come on.
She sure did. But it was kind of cool to see her wipe his ass, and he was shooting bricks and she was making baskets. She talks about her dad and his support for her. And for their anniversary, they're doing a tasting. And boy, does Camille love her a matching set, whether it's at leisure, whether it's going out, but she has a matching lime green set. And Thomas has like a sports coat or a blazer or something that Michelle or Madison would have been like, huh, is that what you're choosing to wear? But,
Yeah.
he tried. He wore a coat or a jacket or something. But they made cocktails, which seemed so fun, and they did seem very comfortable here. And she tells him, like, this is one of the healthiest relationships that I've ever been in. And they talk about their future as she just ribs him about his age. And they're the only couple to exchange gifts. I don't know. Maybe they cut out the
Um
rest, but I don't know.
yeah, I mean I don't know, but they didn't show me giving Chris a gift, even though they filmed
Oh,
it. But
okay.
it's the same thing with the wedding day where everyone gives
Yeah.
their husband, wife a gift, but they don't show everyone. So
Yeah.
I think they showed this specifically because they want us to see how well these two are progressing. But that's
Okay.
just my guess.
Okay, that makes sense. They
Yeah.
didn't show them exchange gifts on the wedding day, so maybe they're making up for it too. But she gives him the hand holding mold thingy. I don't know what it's called, where they can make like is it a sculpture? A mold, I guess, of
Yeah.
that. And he gives her a necklace that's the color of her birthstone. And he shares that that's why he was late, that he had to drive into the suburbs to get it because they didn't have it in Chicago. But like we said, they're great. They're a boring couple, but sometimes boring is nice. You don't need all the drama.
Boring is nice. I think Chris and I were pretty boring, and look where we are 2.5 years later. So boring is nice. If their biggest issue is, he has to wear an earring and his polo shirts are too preppy, like, okay, I'll take it. Because we have enough drama going on. We don't need them to be dramatic. But I think they have really healthy conversations
Yeah.
and they're really, they reassure each other. And I think they're both very open about how they're feeling in this
Mhm.
marriage. So unless something takes a turn, I feel like they'll at least say yes on decision day. And then obviously after that is whatever it is. But I don't see what could happen that would make them not want to be married at least in the next month.
I mean, they're trying to throw us a curveball because in the preview, we see him asking, I don't want to be with someone that's not attracted to me. So,
You
we'll
know,
see.
that could be anything. I never trust a preview.
Yeah, no.
If I had to share one piece of advice with anyone in the world, they get me too. And I mean Fox really does it best. I'll say that with the previews, but every week I'm like, oh my God, what happens? And then you see what happens, and it's usually not as big of a deal. Or like for my season, they showed Clint and Dom making out, I think, after the
Mhm.
first week. And that happened on the where that was our last day of filming.
Yeah.
So you can't trust anything that you see in the preview, but they do a very good job of making those previews. So kudos to whoever edits those.
Well, saving the best for last with MM and Ikechi, which is just really sad, really. Their 1 month anniversary is, I guess, in a park, and she had like a picnic spread. I said, I guess, a park because no one else was there. So I
Yeah,
don't
a
know
lot
how
of
she felt about
parks. I don't know what was going on this season.
that. But he walks in with the usual Ikechi stance where he seems all defensive, with like a wall up, with an attitude, like he didn't want to be there. He looks around and is like, huh, charcuterie and paint. And MM is like, are you okay? Because you're quiet. He's like, I'm just enjoying the chirp of the birds and the scenery. And I'm just, what is with the passive aggressiveness? It's so annoying.
It's so annoying, so childish. Like he and Michelle, I think, are the oldest ones, maybe Thomas, but they're so immature. Like, just say how you're feeling. Say that you don't like where you are or you don't like this relationship, but to just act like a jerk when she's trying it's really upsetting. And I have no patience left for this man.
I mean, I just want to say that MM's makeup was fantastic. Like she looks so good, and it was just I don't know who did her makeup, but I loved it in the park. He manages to squeeze out a compliment, and I was like, huh, you did this. This was a nice spread. This is very well thought out, which means, like we said, she planned it. And her complaint was like, he's not planning anything. And it's like, when are you going to make an effort, mister?
Never.
She says 1 month in that being in this place is very jarring. And Ikechi says what he knows is the score at halftime doesn't indicate the score at the end of the game. This is not Def Poetry Jam. Why can't you just speak like a normal person? Like,
Yeah.
it's so annoying because he thinks he's so smart and he's so intellectually superior. And I'm like, you're not.
He can't speak. He's writing as though he's doing a dissertation for something. Like, just have a normal conversation. She's sitting there talking to you. There's no need for him to be passive aggressive or wordsmith anything. And I'm getting infuriated thinking about
Mhm.
him. But I find, I think he wants a woman, he wants a silent woman who will just do what he says, sit with him, not speak, just enjoy the sound of the nature and the birds and do whatever it is that he wants. And the fact that she is a strong woman who says what she wants, says what she feels, asks questions, he doesn't like it. And
Mhm.
I can't understand why that is, because he is an educated man. He does work with children or, younger students, where he sees these people growing up and trying to mold them and educate them, whatever he's saying. So why wouldn't he want to support a woman who's standing on her own and being brave and bold? It's mind-boggling, honestly, but he needs, I'm not going to say what he needs, but he doesn't deserve her, and that's all there is to that.
Yeah, insecurity is a bitch. Because, I mean, he says, this is some of the stuff that I would like to do in nature. So plan it, Ikechi. It's not just going to appear in front of you. Like, do something about it. So she says, so you're hoping to celebrate each day at a time? And she's like, is that something you're actively doing? Silence. She starts
Hmm.
saying, no, no, no. Basically, are you still there? Like, I'm not even Nicole, and I'm walking on eggshells. Like, I'm
It's
worried
so
about what people
uncomfortable.
say. Exactly. And he just goes, I have something in my tooth. And then in his confessional, he's like, I feel like my answer wasn't good enough. I just, you didn't answer anything. Like, he creates these things in his mind, and I'm like, she just said, like, she's just trying to confirm what you just said. You like to do things,
Right.
you want to celebrate each day at a time. How is that so terrible? But at this point, the tension was palpable. Like, it was just bad. They come back home, the tension is still there. They're looking through their wedding vows.
Ugh.
And Ikechi says he doesn't want to fight, but that he's walking on eggshells and they're not on the same page. And then says, how do you feel about the vows now that you know me or you still don't kind of know me? I will admit she's being kind of passive aggressive
Yeah,
too.
she is. But she's giving it right back to him.
Yeah,
So, I don't know.
deservedly so. I mean, she can only take so much. One of the things I admire about her is like when he goes up on his rants and stuff, I like that she doesn't fight back until she had to at the dinner because he'll just use that against her. And I'm just like, don't say anything because you cannot use any words that she didn't say. So I like that she keeps quiet about that. He says, I meant what I said when I said it. And she says, but he doesn't answer the question. And he was like, I wasn't trying to answer your question. And Ikechi is frustrated because he feels that his answers are never enough for her and that they just can't enjoy any moments. And I'm going to read verbatim what he said because I think my mind was blown. He says, when you hear my answer, you take it, you flip it, you have to go and get a big stick in your hand and hit the bear over the head. If you keep hitting me upside the head with your answer stick, you will see less and less of me. And if that's what you want, I can give you these vows back, and that's what you can keep. When he reads her vows don't say she gets to be an asshole. So don't come at me about my answers. Nicole, this was a masterclass on how not to argue with your partner. There was a tone, there was passive aggressiveness, there was a threat, there was name calling. It was awful.
It was, even hearing you say that back, it's so like, I don't know what it is about some people this season, but no one deserves to be spoken to like that. I don't care if you're fighting, you're having an issue, you hate her, whatever. No one deserves to be spoken to like that. And she definitely did not deserve that. And if that's how he feels, like he's doing her such a favor by being there, then go. Like, why? What I will say, and this is in no defense of him at all,
Hmm.
but I think she seems like I see a little bit of her in me as well. She seems very inquisitive, where she just wants to know everything about him. She wants to learn. She's asking questions. And he seems like a person who does not want to answer questions. He only wants to reveal what he wants to reveal when he wants to reveal it. So for him, he probably feels like she's constantly asking questions that he doesn't want to answer. But how else are you going to get to know each other? So he probably in his head, when she asks a follow-up question, which some people consider a conversation, he
Hmm.
probably sees that as she didn't like my answer. She's asking for more detail, or she's wanting me to change my answer, which is most likely not the case. I think it's
Hmm.
very rare you ask a question and then I ask a question and that's the end of our conversation. That's not how people converse. So I think he just doesn't want to be with a woman who has a voice at the end of the day. It's what I keep going back to. He doesn't like that she is trying to talk to him and get to know him. And the fact that he said that to her shows me that he has no respect for women, truthfully. And I know that that's a really bold statement, but you don't speak to people like that. And you don't speak to your wife like that. And you don't speak to your wife like that on camera, where people can then quote you and it's down in history forever. So it's really sad to see. And I'm losing my train of thought here, but I'm because I'm just so disappointed that it got to this point, and she does not deserve it. No one deserves it, but she does not deserve this. She seems like she's really trying, even though I wouldn't try with this man. Like he
Yeah.
is not deserving.
I think the thing that's bothersome is when you see what people are willing to say or do on camera, the first thing I go to is what are you doing off camera?
Exactly.
Because you don't care. And even worse, maybe you think there's nothing wrong with this. And that's not okay. And then when you think about when he says, when you have the stick and you beat me upside the head, I'm like, how did she beat you upside the head? I think at some point he was complaining that she wasn't trying to get to know him on a deep level or something. But again, you've only known each other 4 weeks. She's just asking a
Right.
follow up question. Why do you think that she's trying to annoy you? And in the beginning, he did say, anything you want to know, ask me. I'm an open book. I'm here to protect you. Yet another couple where something switched. And coincidentally, it was after he saw her apartment and she predicted it.
It's
She
the
said,
apartment. It's you
yes.
could see it in his face.
Yep.
He's threatened that she is a boss ass bitch, for lack of a
Yeah.
better phrase. He doesn't like that she can live her own lifestyle, that she speaks for herself. He probably feels like he can't provide and be a man, but
Yeah.
she's not looking for him to, come in and save the day. She's just looking for a partner. And
Yeah.
he doesn't like that, and it's very obvious. Like he didn't have to say it for it to be known, and ever since he saw her apartment, he's had an issue with her and everything she does. So I just wish he would. I hope he doesn't come back. I know he leaves at the end of the episode. I hope that's it. We don't see him again, because
No, I think he's
it's
coming back.
I don't want him to.
I think he's coming back. I just find it hilarious. Not hilarious, but I find it ironic that everything he accuses her of, it's him. Like he tells her, "Oh, you don't get to be an asshole, but you're always an asshole." You talk about, "Oh, she's asking questions." You say that she's aggressive. You say all these things, but he does everything. Like we have instances of the way he talks to her and the way his tone just, gets all aggy and stuff. But this is a point where I'm like, where's the line where the experts come in? Like you said, no one deserves to be talked to this way. I mean, Dr. P is in Chicago. Like we need an emergency like session stats. I know I heard an interview with Pascal where he says they have talks, but it's not always on camera. I don't
That's a
know.
lie. That's I mean, no, that is a lie for my season and
Okay.
our experience, at least. I don't know what has changed, but we were told to have a conversation with them had to be on camera. So maybe
Ah.
things have changed, but
Mm.
that's
So
that's all I know.
Yeah, because at this point, I don't know if I'm reaching, but it's verbal abuse because he
Mhm.
keeps going on and on and on. And she's just like, doing that thing she does where she's rocking and she's nutting her head. And she's like, okay. She actually did say, I'm going to respect that, and then he just walks away out the apartment because I know he's trying to get a rise out of her. And again, like I said, I'm glad that she's not giving it to him. And Emma said that, she grew up in a Nigerian household where she didn't really show her emotions. She hates to cry on camera. And for the fact that this man keeps pushing her, she goes to the bathroom, she turns on the water, but obviously we know that she's crying. And
It was
it's
heartbreaking.
it's so unfair when you see these women who are coming into the experiment ready to give their all, and they get paired with these
Mhm.
good for nothing fools, or as she calls him, a clown. And it's just a waste because she was ready to find her partner.
Yeah. She was, I think, one of the better candidates I've ever seen on this
Yes.
show because she really was ready and she is looking for a true partner. She doesn't need a man to take care of her or to do this and that, or she's not a deadbeat. Like she was perfect for this. And I said it, I've been disagreed with, but he tried to be on the Houston season and they didn't pick him. And people say it's because they didn't have a match, but I think it's because they didn't want him on the show. And now they were like, oh, we've already vetted him. So let's just use him. And I think that was a poor choice. So I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I always think I'm right. So
And the thing is, before all this started to unfold, I think he's a nice looking man. Like, I think he's like an attractive person, but now it's just like ridiculous that he's made himself look so ugly right now.
yeah,
But
his personality is just
mhm.
not it. And he doesn't deserve any respect from anyone. And he's not going to get it after he behaves the way he behaves in front of people.
Hmm. That's what I thought about Johnny, and then here he is, he's married, so what do I know?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky because it, they it is a very different experience being on camera and being in that pressure cooker. But Johnny just seemed like he was more of an immature kind of baby almost. But Akechi seems like actually very unhinged. Like I to your point, like I don't like to say verbal abuse because that feels like a really harsh thing to say, but it is. It's almost like if that's what you're going to say to her and you have no issue with it, what are you going to say to people behind closed doors if you think that's okay to say in public, essentially? So I just feel like he's not a good person. I won't say he's nice. Like I've said, everyone else is nice. He is not nice.
I mean, I can't think of maybe the reason why I'm saying verbal abuse is like on camera, Nicole. He basically accused her of, I mean, it's not sexual assault, but of
The way he phrased
inappropriate
it.
touch. Yeah, and this is a woman that has a business, that has a thing, and it's like,
Hmm.
why are we not saying anything about the first time he took her hand and put it on his private part? Like, we could say something about that. She didn't
Yeah.
ask for that, but she's like, oh, that's my wife or my husband. So why didn't you take it that way? Like, she's just like, yes, he said that he said no, but you don't know her, but I don't know her, but I don't think she was trying to be malicious about it or have bad intentions. She just thought, oh, we're vibing because he was making sexual jokes at
Yeah.
the honeymoon.
And
So
they are married. It's not crazy if you're attracted to your spouse to try to make a move. Like I don't think she did anything that is so, off the wall crazy, but he said no and she respected that and he's now upset that she even tried. Like, okay. And to say like, "Oh, I'm from the South. I'm not used to it." Like, no, that's an excuse. He just wanted something to show that she wasn't a great person or whatever it is, but I really don't think it's fair the way he talks to her. And I'm curious how he speaks to the other women in his life.
mm. Okay, so let's wrap it up with this dinner, this explosive 1 month dinner where all the couples get together because I think that's something they're doing this season. They don't have a lot of interaction, or they're not showing us the interactions between the couples this season. And it seems like when things are being said, they do seem genuinely shocked. So I don't know if they're not communicating. I assume they have a group chat, but I don't know what the dynamic of the group is this season.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not. That's not something that production forces on you, even when you have the group interactions. Like, I don't think they actually want you to talk as much
Mhm,
as we did, at least, because then when you have these group gatherings, things aren't as much of a surprise. But
mhm.
I don't know. I don't love group gatherings as much, but this one I think is really important because you get to see where everyone is as a frame of reference from the honeymoon. But
Yeah.
it was just a shit show. I mean, even on the
Mhm.
bus, like even, oh, we see who's not here. It's like, why can't you just? I'm thinking about Michelle. Like, why can't you just say, oh, David's at work. He's going to try to make it, but she acted as though he abandoned her on the bus, and then
I don't think she knew he was coming. But so in the beginning, Michelle tells David, she tells us in the selfie cam that David can't make it because of work, but he got flowers for her. Honestly, I think she was relieved. I think she was
yeah,
happy that he wasn't coming. And oh, sorry, had already told us previously that since Ikechi walked out the door, she hasn't heard from him. We see texts that she's been sending for the
right.
last 2 days, and he wasn't responding to that. So tells us in a selfie cam that he did come in while she was on a call. He said hello, grabbed his shoes, and then he left. She was hoping they would talk before dinner, which is reasonable before you go to a group, but I guess he
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to. So they all hit the party bus to go to the dinner. And they're like, oh, no one's here except Ikechi and David. And Alan is like, cheers to David. And that's all I have to say
Yeah.
about that. And tells them what's been going on. Like, she was spilling everything that was going on, told them about the hand on that, the fight, the aggressive, called him an asshole on there. But while she was talking, Nicole, I just kept staring at Carla's tattoo. I was just trying to figure out, is it on her boob? Is it in the
I'm not
chest? Is it
sure.
that is so interesting. I mean, it's not like I can say, "Oh, I want to see," because she'll have to flash us. But I was like,
I
"Huh."
bet she would. She'd probably be like, you want to see it? Here you go.
So when you become friends, please answer that. I was like, "Where is that? Is that around or not?" Again, guys, I'm not a perv. It was just really right there, and I was like,
Yeah, if you're going to show it off, let us know what's going on under there. I'm with you. Yeah, I'll ask her.
"So." Yeah, and then no, does bring up and was like, "This man signed up for the show twice."
Mm-hmm.
And all that stuff. So, she'd already set her story and already, set the tone for everything. They get to the dinner and they start talking about it. And Camille is just like, in the spirit of good news. And then Michelle, the sourpuss, took her news from her and was like, oh my God, did you have sex? I'm like, let her say it. Don't take her moment from her. And it must have been good, which is what I'm happy for her for, because if it wasn't, she wouldn't have been so happy to announce it. So I'm like, go.
Yeah, I think she was like, oh, he has swag where it counts. Like
Yeah.
they started having sex and things changed. So I have high hopes for them. I'm very happy for their
Yay.
sex life, which is weird to say, but it is what it is.
um, Michelle is like, "Oh, I'm shocked," and I'm like, "Why are you shocked? They're married, and it's what married people do, even when you're not married." So I'm not quite sure why she's shocked that they're having
She
sex.
sucks.
She's so miserable.
Yeah, she can't
Anyway,
imagine anyone being happily married and having sex. Like that's a foreign concept.
so Carla is talking about their journey, and mid sentence, Ikechi walks in. I'm like, "Oh, you don't want to talk to your wife, but you want to come to this dinner? Okay." They ask where he's been. He's like, I've been chilling. Again, I should add that Ikechi comes in with the energy he always comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone's about to fight him right now. And Alan is like, well, is that an excuse to miss half the dinner? See, this is Nicole. This is where I think Alan is not really like a pushover or a people pleaser. Like when it counts, he's just trying to make Madison happy because
I
he
don't
had all
know.
the he had
I
all the
see
mouth.
your point. I really do see what you're saying, but I can't get myself to like feel differently. I can't. I think he was just making a comment to kind of break the tension because he seems like a guy who can't deal with quiet, but I don't know. It was I'm happy he said it at least.
We need to unpack this, Nicole. I feel like there's something that
I
Alan.
truly don't know. I don't know. From the second I saw him, I was like, oh no. And I don't know why, because he seems so nice. I maybe he reminds me of someone.
I think he does.
I think it's more because she in the beginning reminded me of me. And I was like, that's not the man for me. So it makes no sense. Maybe I need to see a therapist about it, but it's not my marriage. It doesn't matter if I like him or not. I think he's great. I think he's great, just not for me or Madison. So he'll find the right woman, and I'm sure of that.
So yeah. So while they're going back and forth on that, Dave walks in, underdressed again, and Michelle gives a confessional and is like, "Oh, sounds like he came on his break and it wasn't easy, so that was nice. But honestly, she sounds like she's dying as she's saying that. Like, okay, I know I have to say something nice, so I'm just gonna force this out of my mouth. But I don't think she wanted him there. So, and she
No.
seemed embarrassed.
Well, I was shocked that she even said that. I thought she would be like, he's late and he showed up in a t-shirt. So I was shocked that she even could muster up the energy to say something nice. But I thought it was a good effort that he came. I also don't know like how much of an option it was
Yeah.
for either of them to show up. I think it was kind of like you have to be there, make it
Mm,
happen. But that
yeah.
again is the behind the scenes part of me that's like there are plenty of things that we didn't want to do that we had to do or couldn't do because we were filming. So I don't know if they get a prize necessarily.
I'm glad that he showed up. I always hate when things like that happen on shows. It just kind of messes with the dynamic a little bit. So I'm glad that he, whatever the reason was, that he made an effort and he was able to show, even if it was for a little bit. So,
Yeah, I mean he always brings a positive experience
mhm.
to the group. So I was happy he was there, but Akechi could have stayed home.
So Camille just cuts the BS and she's like, Ikechi, what's really good? Ikechi
Mhm.
says, I'm good. Like, there's no peace in my home. So he's taking peace in the moment. Again, passive aggressive. And he
Mhm.
doesn't want to talk about his married life with them. Juan is like, I respect that. Yada, yada. Like, Juan has been annoying me since the party bus, to trying to be a pacifist. And it's like, Juan, sit there and look pretty and shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
So that's
Know your
just
role, sir.
like, stop, because it was like both of you pointing fingers, there's no both of you here, there's no let's hear this side, that side, no. So Michelle is just like, why did you come then if you don't want to talk to us?
Yeah.
And he's like, I can leave if you want. And I'm like, again, this is how he's talking to another woman.
Mhm.
They tell him like, you don't need to be hostile, like he's like, I came to celebrate you guys, not me. And Alan is like, you don't think that's insulting? And Kichi says, well, my wife makes me feel like shit. I thought you didn't want to talk about your marriage, but if it's to berate your wife, oh, there you go, talking about she makes you feel like shit. And I'm like, this man thinks he's a victim. He
He
thinks he's the only
does.
one lacking on peace. You the oh god. Oh
And
my
he
gosh.
says it passive aggressively, but it's not really that passive when it's a very obvious dig. There's
Yeah.
no peace in my home. Well, your home is with one person. So
Yeah.
we're not trying to figure out the context clues here. You're very clearly talking about your marriage. And I'm sorry, you don't go to a group dinner for your 1 month anniversary thinking you're going to talk about anything but your marriage. So whether he was there by choice or not, you showed up knowing the mission here. So for him to say, I don't want to talk about it, I came for you, then don't come. Then whether they said you had to come or not, you are your own person. Don't come then. If you're going to come and be miserable and treat your wife like she's less than and not deserving of celebrating. So I can't stand him. I'm sorry. I'm all worked up.
Here's the thing about being a human being, we always have a choice. There were so many choices on how to handle that. He could easily have said, listen, we're not in a good place right now. I don't want to bring the energy down, so I don't want to talk about it, but I'm here to celebrate those of you who are in a good place. Or you could have just said something else that doesn't have to involve being disrespectful to your
Right.
wife or another human being. So he knows what he's saying and he knows what he's doing. So I'm glad that the men stepped in, because most times when some of these things are happening, you see the men trying to, like, rally for their fellow men or keep quiet or whatever. So I'm glad that, David stepped in and was like, hey, the choice of words need to be said in a different manner. And then he's like, oh, you need to respect the relationship, yada, yada, yada. Again, one is like, it's not easy. Just try to be positive. And MM is like me, because I think this is what drove her over the edge. Because she's like, MM, when my husband calls me an asshole on my anniversary, I don't have much to give. Like, I don't have any positivity, anything on that. She goes off on him. She's like, I've been calling, I've been texting. And then he just shows up in his Joker ass suit.
Yeah. I was like clapping for her. I was like, you get it all out, girlfriend. This is your moment.
She played it right because she's been quiet the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And now is the time to just let it all loose. And she's like, he's wild for this. Camille has leaned all the way into Thomas. She's sipping her
Yeah.
drink. Her eyeballs are like, whoa, whoa. Ikechi says, no, you haven't. That's a lie. You haven't called. You haven't texted. I'm like, we saw it. She did text you. And then Carla cuts in and was like, let's go to the bathroom, Let's go to the bathroom. And this idiot has a smirk and he's like, you see what I'm saying? This has been his goal the
Mm-hmm.
entire time. Poke, 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 get the reaction and be like, see what I mean? This is what I mean when I say she's aggressive, but she's a human being. And everyone has, a point where they're going to break.
He's poking her with his stick and he's waiting for her to do exactly what she did. And I
Yeah.
give her so much credit for not doing it sooner. So her
Mhm.
reaction was totally valid, but I'm really glad that the women pulled her into the bathroom because
Yeah.
I think she really did need to compose herself because she was not going to come down from that out there with everyone. And for her own benefit, I know I personally, when I have meltdowns like that, I don't like to feel that way. So I need to center myself. And I just think having, not only were they there, but everyone's producers are there, the camera people are there. So there was probably 30 people in that room. So I
Yeah.
think it's very smart that they separated her and gave her a chance to compose herself. But he was there just to aggravate her,
Yeah.
truly. Because then he
Yeah.
left. He was like, all right, my job here is done. I
Yeah.
don't need to be here.
I mean, she did deliver the best line of the episode as she walks away and is like, bring me a clown and I'll give you a
Yeah.
circus. So, this might be a little thing. This might be a reach, but I don't know if it says anything. But Ike is quick to apologize to Alan. Oh, I didn't mean anything. I come in peace, yada, yada, yada. But it's like, I don't know that I've ever seen him apologize to Emmett.
Well, because he doesn't respect women, but he cares what other men think about him because he wants to be seen as a stand up man in society. So he obviously doesn't want Alan to be upset with him. So I
Mm.
think he just doesn't respect women. I know I keep saying it, I sound like a broken record, but that's what it comes down to. He sees Mem's feelings as less important than Alan's, and he feels bad that he potentially ruined Alan's big anniversary, but doesn't care that his was ruined or Mem's was also ruined. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but they're not going to be friends. I mean, Ikechi and Alan are not going to be friends after this. So I don't know why.
It'll be interesting to see who he's friends with after the season ends. But the bathroom was great because Carla's telling her, like, no man is worth you pulling you out of your class. Like, it's okay. Like, Camille has said it before that she was ready to check a man who is going to be disrespectful and all that stuff. But she's holding herself because, Camille really wants to go into Ikechi, but she recognizes this is not my husband, not my fight. I'm going to let it be. But nails it again when she says that he thought he was going to get a woman that was, like you said earlier, like quiet or less than, but then he got somebody that was leveled up and he doesn't know what to do with it. And
Yeah.
honestly, that's the summary of their relationship. And I don't know if he recognizes it, but I'm hoping that after he watches this, that he takes some accountability, but he needs to fix that
Yeah,
because
because that's a problem. Well,
he's the
no, I
one.
shouldn't say it's a problem. He can very well find a woman who is subservient and will bend to every whim and not speak. So maybe it's not a problem for him, but don't go on a show where you could potentially be with a woman who you ask the experts for. But he shouldn't speak to anyone like that, let alone his wife. And that's the problem I have with him. It's not
But
okay
it
to talk to people like that.
But it is a problem. He's the one that's in his 40s who's tried out for a show twice and he hasn't been with anyone in 12 years. So he can't even find a subservient
And he's
woman.
probably
So
not going to. So I'm saying like there's many people on this show where like who's going to date them, and to your point, they get married. So it's not like it's not like he has to be single forever, but he probably will because he's not going to find the woman that he so desperately needs that he doesn't know he needs. But
mm,
MM
yeah.
is not it for him. She is too much of a woman, and he is too little of a man.
Mm. And then in his final act of passive aggressiveness, she comes back to the dining table. And as soon as she comes back, Ikechi gets up, daps Alan, and then he leaves. Why didn't you leave while she was in the bathroom? Something is seriously wrong with this man.
Yeah. He's
That's a lot.
manipulative. He wants to prove I'm leaving because you came back. Like, okay. I bet
Hey,
she's not upset about you leaving. So good job, buddy.
you knew she was going to come back, so it's all
Yeah.
calculated. But Madison says Ikechi is a con artist.
Yeah.
David said he didn't appreciate how he was talking to her, and MM is like, that's how he talks to me in private. And then we see him walking away. The producer asks him, why are you leaving? And I quote, he said, you think I'm about to sit next to that? And I said, you called her that? I was ready to fight.
Yeah.
Like,
He's disgusting.
I've never been in a fight in my life, but I was ready to throw hands. Like the disrespect on camera.
I'm so grateful no one on my season was like that because I would get involved. I'm just that asshole who gets involved and I would have smacked him upside his head if I heard him talking to his wife like that. And it's disgusting. Like the way he said it, with full conviction that people would agree with him. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't sit next to that either. No one's on your side. No one.
Mm-mm. He says he doesn't have the capacity to be with immaturity. Like I said, everything
Ugh,
he accuses her of, it's him. And then he says his stupid rehearsed line again. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Well, this time I'm someone's Hennessy and Coke. You're nobody's mixed cocktail, sir.
no.
So Juan starts again, like, you guys are blaming each other. I'm just like, Juan, you are getting on my damn nerves right about now. But I don't know. He claims that he doesn't know her to have sex. But again, you were making comments in the beginning and that he's okay with walking away and there's divorce on the table. And I always say, it's real on maps when you can see the producers and the cameras in the background.
Yeah.
So we saw them. So it was real.
You saw
Um,
my producer in the background, actually. I took a
yeah.
video. I was like, I see you. And he's like, oh, I was trying to avoid the action. You see him like ducking his head. Very funny. But yeah, divorce should be an option because
Yeah.
where do you go from here? Don't even waste your breath giving them advice. This is not a healthy conversation. We don't need to be trying to be positive. Not everything has a positive spin.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, starts crying again, and we all know that's a pet. She doesn't like crying on camera, so she goes to the bathroom with Camille. And Camille says, like, he's supposed to be this woke black man, so he knows that calling her, especially a black woman, aggressive, he knew what he was doing. And oh, sorry, this is when was like, he was hoping for a less educated woman that he could pull the wool over their eyes, and now he just wants to tear her down. I don't know why men do this. Just go find someone who you think is on your level, but they always want someone. Well, he did not. Well, he did ask for that. Actually, they
Yeah.
gave him what he asked for. They want someone on that level, and then all they want to do is just tear them down and belittle them to nothing. It's like, it's terrible. But
It's a power thing. He wants to feel powerful and he has no power in a relationship with not even an equal. She's way better than him. So he has no power. And that I'm assuming it has something to do with childhood because every issue in my head, I'm convinced comes from childhood, but he should see a therapist about that is my official advice for him. If he's out there listening, go to
hmm.
therapy, talk about it, figure it out.
Well, like Dr. Pia says, he doesn't think he has anything. Dr. Pia and said that. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with him. He thinks he has everything all figured out. And I think that's to his detriment. He needs to admit that he's fallible. So,
Yeah.
well, we see Ikechi pack up his stuff and leaves. He says he can't do it anymore and he cannot be with someone who thinks that he is smaller and keeps belittling him. And again, listeners, if you have seen a scene or anything where has belittled him or made him feel small, I would like to see this because the only person who has done this is Ikechi. So I don't know what the scenarios that he's building in his head is. This is crazy.
I think in his head, like you just said, she is belittling him, but not because she's actually doing it, because he's taking what she's saying. I'm sure asking a question to him is belittling. Oh, why'd she question me? Meanwhile, she's probably just asking a question. So she's not doing anything to belittle him, but he's taking it that way. So in his mind, she's probably the abusive one, but it's all in his head.
Mm. Well, he says after tonight, this is not anyone that he'll ever want to be married to. And I think somebody pulled, was it from Facebook or Twitter? Whatever, some social media where it was days after the 1 month anniversary where he was like, I'd rather be single and something than married and miserable or something or whatever it is that he said. But that was the episode, and that's when we got the whopper of a preview, and a lot is going to happen. But knowing maths, we are not going to get it until episode
Mm-hmm.
457 in November when we're
Yep.
celebrating Christmas again.
I mean, these poor couples they got married like 2 years ago, basically. So they're just keeping quiet until then. But yeah, we're not going to see it all next week. But I thought it was a really good episode in terms of, I think everyone's status is solidified right now.
Yeah.
Maybe Camille
Hmm.
and Thomas, like I said, I don't really see them changing course. I don't know what
Yeah.
would change their course, but
Mhm.
I feel like it's official where everyone else is at this point. So
Yeah.
it was just, it's upsetting to see. Like, I don't care if people fight, but to see people be disrespected and treated like that is just never acceptable. But I don't know
Yeah.
at what point you step in from behind the scenes. Like, at what point do producers get involved, or do we separate them from the situation? So I'm glad he left. And like I said, I hope he doesn't come back.
Yeah.
But you're right, he probably will, because, drama, drama.
Thank you. Yeah, I think two things are true in this case where it was entertaining. It was a good episode to come back to after a 2 week break, but also being cognizant of the fact that this is MM's real life. I don't give a
Mhm.
fuck about Ikechi, but this is MM's real life. And this is something like, as much as no matter how strong you are or whatever, when things like this happen, it's hard not to internalize it because it's an experience that you're going through that you're going to have to unpack and just not take it personally. Like it's not a you thing, it's a them thing, but we're human beings. So,
Yeah. And she's going to be made to talk about it from here on out. So that
yeah,
makes it even worse when you're trying not to overthink it, but you're constantly being asked about it. So
yeah,
I just hope wherever she is in her current day that she's healed and doing well and knows that she's amazing and
yeah,
he's a little POS.
yeah. Okay. So, who has your bouquet?
MM has it because she held her own for as long as she could, and then she gave exactly the reaction she needed to. So I was really proud of her.
Cool. My bouquet goes to Alan, your best friend.
You love Alan.
I love
You
Alan.
love him.
I ride
No,
for Alan.
I don't dislike him. I just don't love him. But okay.
My bouquet goes to Alan because I know it was passive aggressive, but just sticking it to Ikechi, anyone who had MM's back in that whole scenario, like doing the opposite of what Juan was doing, I'm down for that. Like not cheersing to him, asking him why he was late and just trying to get in there. I'm like, yeah, good job,
All
Alan.
right. I could see that. All right. That's fair. He can have it. He can have it.
Who has your ashes?
It's obvious it's Ikechi. I mean, it's usually Michelle, but today he took it from her with ease.
I always rotate between Ikechi and Michelle, and it's getting old now, so I just try to dig deep and find it. So this shouldn't be a surprise, but I'm giving my ashes to Juan because he
I
just
knew you were
really,
going to
really
say that.
annoyed me.
Yeah.
Like just diving in, like, oh, you guys need to know you shouldn't do anything. And also because just the whole thing of I feel like he controlled the course of him and Carla's relationship, and it's just
Hmm.
kind of sad. And also
Yeah.
because of sucky date etiquette. Like not business all the time. Relax. Like I thought you were kooky and
Right.
fun and stuff. Like try to get her into a zen place and put all that on pause, not trying to make her feel bad. So
And why are we at a picnic? I don't understand. You're in Chicago. Go anywhere. But we can't blame that on him, but we're gonna,
yeah.
because why not?
Well, maybe if he had planned something or told them something they wanted to do, they might have. So I'll blame him a little bit just to
Yeah.
complete my ashes circle.
Yeah. I agree with all your picks. They're different than mine, but I still agree.
Well, Nicole, this was fun. We talked a lot
Yeah.
about this. Thanks for the BTS and the behind the scenes. But can you share with people, where they can find you or not? Or because I see you be getting some trolls.
Quickly will address that. We all get some trolls, but I probably get 1% of my messages are from really hateful, sad people. But the 99% of messages I receive are so kind and heartwarming. And truly, I don't feel like I deserve some of the messages I get because some people have said I inspire them and they really relate to me, and it's so beautiful. I cry like so often from
Aw.
beautiful messages, which I know is like kind of sappy to say, but it has really been a positive experience. And I think the trolls are just funny. I'm like, okay, like be an idiot, and I really don't care. But you can find me mostly on Instagram when I'm on there, but listen to my podcast with Gina and Kirsten. We don't recap the show. Sometimes we talk about it, but whenever people ask for a recap, I always send them your way. Like, we don't do that, but we know someone who does. It's called D-List Diaries. So you can find us on Instagram there. And we give a lot more behind the scenes and what life is like after being on a reality TV show. So that's kind of my little pet project.
Check it out, guys. And it's available everywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts,
Everywhere.
Spotify.
We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Apple, iHeartRadio, whatever it is. I don't even know. It's, you type it in, it'll come up. I promise. It's pink. Everything's pink.
Yes, guys. So thank you for listening. You know where to find me. It's Altar Call, MAFS, ALTARCALL, MAFS. Please give a 5-star rating, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we'll be here again for this mess next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.